The twin suns of Elindra bathed the royal palace in golden light. Its tall crystal towers glittered like frozen fire, standing high above the lush green forests that stretched beyond the city. Inside the grand hall, hundreds of alien courtiers gathered in silence, their silver robes whispering against the marble floors. All eyes were fixed on the raised throne platform, where Queen Serenia sat in her floating chair. The chair, an elegant hover throne of gold and white, hummed softly beneath her. Serenia had never walked a step in her life. Her legs were slender but still, wrapped in soft fabric, hidden under flowing royal gowns. Some called her the untouchable queen, others the silent flame, for her voice was calm yet able to cut sharper than a blade. Today was supposed to be a formal introduction, nothing more, nothing less. A delegation from Earth had arrived, led by Captain Aaron Vance, a human soldier chosen by both governments as a potential alliance partner. The ancient prophecies of Elindra spoke of a star-born warrior who would join the Queen to unite their peoples. But Serenia never believed in prophecies. She believed in strength, loyalty, and the will to rule without relying on pity. As the chamber doors swung open, a figure stepped inside. Aaron Vance walked with measured steps, his dark, military uniform crisp, a faint sheen of dust on his boots from the long journey. He had short, neatly kept hair, and his eyes, clear, steady, and human, met Serenia's without flinching. The courtiers murmured in low voices. Most humans who met Serenia looked away quickly, as if afraid her gaze might reveal their true thoughts. This one didn't. Aaron stopped a respectful distance from the throne and bowed his head. Not too low, not groveling, but enough to show courtesy. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice deep and steady. "Thank you for allowing me to stand in your presence." Serenia's lips curved into the faintest smile, though her eyes stayed cold. "Captain Vance, I am told you are a soldier of skill and honor. I am also told you have been sent as a candidate." She let the last word hang in the air, heavy and deliberate. Aaron didn't miss the weight in her tone. "I was asked to come because both our peoples see the need for a stronger alliance," he said. "If my presence can help bring peace between Elindra and Earth, I am willing to serve in whatever way is needed." Her eyes narrowed. "And you believe standing beside me is serving?" A small pause, then he replied evenly. "If the bond between our worlds is what will protect them, then yes. But I don't expect it to be easy or automatic." The courtiers shifted uncomfortably. No one spoke to the Queen this way. Not bluntly, not without dressing their words in layers of flattery. Serenia's fingers tapped lightly on the armrest of her hover throne. "Tell me, Captain," she said, leaning slightly forward. "How many wars have you fought?" "5 major campaigns," he answered, "and more small conflicts than I can count." "How many victories?" Aaron's jaw tightened slightly. "Enough to keep my people safe. Not enough to stop the fighting forever." Her gaze softened for only a moment, then hardened again. "War is not glory, Captain. War is the failure of every other choice. I have ruled this world since I was a child, and I have seen enough blood to fill oceans. My people need stability, not more warriors who think they can solve everything with a weapon." "I agree," Aaron said simply, "but sometimes the only way to keep peace is to be ready to defend it." The silence that followed was heavy. Serenia studied him carefully. She saw no arrogance in his posture, no fear in his eyes, but she also saw something she didn't want to see: persistence. Finally, she spoke. "Captain Vance, I do not doubt your courage, but I will tell you plainly, I will not choose a partner from another world just because an old story says I must. I will not allow myself to be bound to someone who looks at me and sees a broken ruler to be saved. I am not broken, and I do not need saving." Aaron's brow furrowed slightly. "Then perhaps you should know something, Your Majesty. I didn't come here to save you. I came here to stand with you." Her eyes flashed, but she hid her reaction. "Your honesty is noted. You may return to your quarters until the council decides our next step." 2 guards stepped forward to escort him out. Aaron gave a small bow, turned, and walked away without another word. When the chamber doors closed behind him, Serenia sat in silence for a moment. The courtiers waited for her to speak, but she said nothing. Her gaze drifted toward the open balcony where the Elindran sky glowed with the fading light of the twin suns. Somewhere in that quiet moment, she realized something unsettled her. Not his defiance, not his confidence, but the fact that for the first time in many years, she didn't feel like the most unmovable person in the room. That night, in her private chambers, Serenia floated by the balcony in her hover throne. The stars above Elindra shimmered like silver dust, each one a distant world with its own stories. She thought about Aaron Vance, not about his uniform or his military record, but the way he had stood before her without flinching, the way his words carried weight without the usual honeyed sweetness of diplomacy. It troubled her, but it also made her curious. Still, curiosity was a dangerous thing for a queen, especially for one who had promised herself long ago never to let anyone close enough to see her vulnerabilities. She brushed the thought aside, focusing instead on the coming council session. By tomorrow, the matter of this human soldier could be closed forever, or so she thought. Morning broke over Elindra with a soft blue light spilling through the palace windows. The capital city stirred awake, its markets filling with the smell of spiced bread and the sound of chimes in the warm breeze. Inside the royal palace, the council chamber buzzed with quiet tension. Captain Aaron Vance sat alone at the far end of the long table. Around him, Elindran nobles whispered in their musical language, casting sidelong glances at the human soldier. Some eyes carried suspicion, others mild curiosity, but most were filled with doubt. Queen Serenia entered without announcement. The room fell silent at once. Her hover throne glided forward, her robes trailing like liquid silver. She stopped, near the head of the table, her gaze sweeping over the council members before resting briefly on Aaron. "Captain Vance," she began, her voice cool and measured, "the council has heard your introduction. They will now decide whether your presence here should continue." Aaron met her eyes without hesitation. "I didn't come here to waste anyone's time, Your Majesty. If your people don't want me here, say it, and I'll leave." A faint ripple of shock passed through the council members. No one spoke to Serenia so directly, her chin lifted slightly. "It is not your place to decide when you leave. That is for Elindra's ruler to determine." Aaron leaned forward slightly, resting his forearms on the table. His tone remained calm, but there was an edge beneath it. "With respect, I'm not here as a beggar. I'm here because our worlds face the same threats. I came to offer something, not to be paraded like a prize for inspection." The nobles exchanged nervous glances. Serenia's golden eyes narrowed, but instead of anger, a spark of interest glimmered in them. "You speak boldly for someone in a foreign court," she said. "I speak honestly," Aaron replied. "You don't have to like me, but if trouble comes to your borders, you'll want someone who doesn't run at the first sign of danger." The air in the chamber grew heavy. Some of the older council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others seemed to study Aaron more closely now, as if weighing his words. Serenia's voice dropped to a quiet, deliberate tone. "What makes you think Elindra needs you, Captain?" Aaron didn't hesitate. "Because I've seen what's coming. The Christ Dominion has been expanding. They've already taken worlds closer to your territory than you think, and I've fought them before. I know how they move, how they attack, and how they break a planet's will before it even falls." A flicker of unease crossed a few noble faces. Serenia, however, remained unreadable. and you believed that your experience alone would turn the tide? I believe that standing apart we'll both lose, Aaron said. But if Elindra and Earth stand together, the Chris will think twice before starting a war they can't win. The Queen leaned back in her hover throne, silent for several moments. Finally, she spoke, not to Aaron, but to the council. You may go. I will speak with the captain alone. The nobles rose, bowing before making their way out. The heavy doors closed, leaving only the two of them in the vast chamber. Serenia studied him with the same quiet intensity she had shown yesterday in the throne room. You are not what I expected, she said at last. Aaron allowed a small smile. I get that a lot. Her eyes narrowed again, but this time it seemed more thoughtful than hostile. You don't try to flatter me. You don't try to impress me. You simply state your purpose and stand by it. Most who come before me either drown me in compliments or hide their real intentions. Maybe they're afraid you'll see through them, Aaron said. Should I see through you, Captain? You can try, he replied evenly. But I'm not here to play games. I've seen enough in my life to know when time is running out. And for both our worlds, it's running out. She didn't respond right away. The hum of the hover throne filled the silence. Then, almost reluctantly, she asked, Why did you really accept this assignment? You could have refused. Aaron thought for a moment before answering. Because my people need allies we can trust. And from what I've read and heard, Elindra has a ruler who won't bend easily. That's the kind of leader I'd rather fight beside than against. Something in Serenia's expression shifted, a trace of surprise, perhaps even respect, but she quickly masked it. Your words are unexpected. Aaron shrugged lightly. So are yours. Her lips curved slightly, almost in amusement, before she composed herself again. You may remain in the palace for now, but know this. I still do not agree with this arrangement. If you expect me to welcome you as the prophecies suggest, you will be disappointed. I'm not here for a prophecy, Aaron said. I'm here for the truth, and to help if you'll let me. She held his gaze for a long moment. We shall see, Captain. With that, she turned her hover throne and glided toward the side doors. Aaron stood quietly, watching her go, wondering whether he had gained ground with her, or simply earned her deeper scrutiny. Later that evening, Aaron walked the palace gardens alone. Elindra's plants were unlike anything on Earth, tall crystal-petaled, flowers that swayed without wind, vines that shimmered faintly in the starlight, and great trees whose roots glowed a faint green beneath the soil. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of something sweet and metallic at once. He thought about Serenia, not in the way the Earth Press had painted her, as some untouchable alien monarch, but as a leader who carried her own invisible battles. She had every right to be cautious. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere beneath all that guarded pride was a person who understood exactly why he was here. The sound of soft hums drew his attention. From the shadows, Serenia's hover throne emerged slowly along the garden path. She stopped a few meters away, studying him. You're still here, she said, her tone unreadable. Until you tell me to leave, Aaron replied. For a moment, she seemed to consider him, her eyes tracing the lines of his posture, the quiet, strength in his stance. The council thinks you are too bold, she said. Do you? Her gaze lingered before she answered. I think boldness can be useful, if it is backed by action. We will see if yours is. Without another word, she turned and disappeared into the garden shadows, leaving Aaron standing beneath the alien stars, more certain than ever that whatever was coming, he wouldn't walk away. The Elindran night sky shimmered like a deep ocean, filled with silver fish. Stars glowed bright, and the twin moons hung low, their light brushing the palace walls with pale white. From her private balcony, Queen Serenia gazed outward, her eyes fixed on the distant horizon. Something felt wrong. For the past week, she had sensed a shift in the air, not in the weather, but in the mood of her people. Soldiers patrolled more often, and messages from the border outposts had grown shorter, their tone more urgent. She did not need the council to tell her that trouble was brewing. A knock echoed at her chamber door. Her aide, a young Elindran officer, named Lysa, stepped in and bowed quickly. "Your Majesty? Urgent news from the southern sky outposts. The Chris Dominion fleet has been sighted beyond our outer trade routes." Serenia's jaw tightened. "How far?" "They are moving faster than expected. Our scouts believe they will reach the outer moons in less than 2 rotations." The Queen's hover throne hummed as she turned toward her war desk. "Summon the High Council and—" She paused for a heartbeat. "Call Captain Aaron Vance." Aaron arrived at the council hall minutes later, still wearing his training uniform from the palace guard yard. He could tell from the atmosphere that something serious had happened. Nobles spoke in sharp whispers, and the guards at the doors stood tense, their hands near their sidearms. Serenia addressed the room from her place at the head of the table. "The Chris Dominion has entered our outer regions. They are not yet in direct range, but they have taken 3 unprotected trade stations. This is no coincidence. They are testing our response." One counselor, an older Elindran with silver markings across his forehead, frowned. "We should send a message to Earth and request reinforcements. If the prophecy is true, now is the time to act on it." Another counselor shook his head. "If we call for aid too soon, we will look weak. The Chris will think we cannot defend ourselves." Aaron listened quietly until Serenia's gaze found him. "Captain Vance, you have fought the Chris before. What do you see in this?" "They're probing your defenses," Aaron said without hesitation. "They want to know how you react under pressure. If you hesitate, they'll move closer. If you attack too hard, they'll retreat temporarily, only to strike where you're not looking. Either way, they'll keep pushing until they find your breaking point." A few counselors exchanged uneasy looks. Serenia leaned forward slightly. "And what would you do, Captain?" "I'd make sure they never get the idea that you have. A breaking point," Aaron replied. "Hit them fast and make it clear Elindra isn't a target worth the cost. But I wouldn't wait for them to come to the capital." Some counselors murmured in disapproval, but Serenia raised her hand for silence. "Captain Vance will take a strike team to the outer moons. You will coordinate with our fleet commander there. Your orders are to hold them back, but not provoke an all-out war." Aaron nodded. "Understood." That evening, in the hangar bays beneath the palace, Aaron inspected the Elindran starcraft assigned to him, a sleek vessel shaped like a silver arrowhead, its hull reflecting the warm glow of the setting suns. The crew was small, 6 Elindran soldiers, each armed with energy rifles and wearing light combat armor. One of them, a tall soldier with green-tinted skin, eyed Aaron carefully. "You're the human the Queen trusts?" he asked in a low voice. Aaron smirked. "Trust might be too strong a word." The soldier didn't laugh, but he didn't turn away either. That was good enough for Aaron. The flight to the outer moons took less than an hour. As the craft broke through the atmosphere, Aaron's view filled with the darkness of space and the faint silver glow of Elindra's smaller moon. Beyond it, faint red lights flickered. Chris ships, scanning the region like silent predators. "Commander, on the outpost reports multiple boarding attempts on trade freighters," the pilot announced. Aaron's voice was steady. "We're not letting them take another one." The battle began in silence. Aaron's team slipped in under the cover of the moon's shadow, disabling one Chris patrol craft with a precise burst of ion fire. But the moment the first ship went dark, the others reacted. A swarm of small fighters broke formation and came straight for them. Aaron's hands moved quickly over the targeting controls. "2 to the left now," he ordered. The Elindran gunners obeyed instantly, sending a volley of plasma bursts into the enemy's path. One fighter exploded into fragments, another spun away, trailing sparks. The radio crackled with the voice of the fleet commander. "Captain Vance, they are regrouping for a second strike. We have to pull back." "Negative," Aaron replied. "If we pull back now, they'll follow us to the next moon and the next. We push them out here." The outpost commander hesitated but finally said, "Understood. All ships, follow the human captain's lead." The fight was fast and brutal. The Chris ships darted like insects, their dark, jagged hulls blending into the void. Aaron's strategy was simple: keep them chasing one target while the rest of the fleet struck from unexpected angles. It worked. Within 30 minutes, the Chris began retreating toward the edge of the system. As the last enemy ship vanished into the black, Aaron exhaled slowly. "Hold formation," he told the fleet. "They'll be back." When Aaron returned to the capital, the palace greeted him with quiet whispers. News of the successful defense had already spread. He walked into the council chamber still in his flight jacket, his hair tousled from the helmet. Serenia sat waiting, her expression unreadable. "You held them," she said. "For now," Aaron replied. "But they'll test you again. Maybe. Not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but they'll come." There was a pause, and then, to Aaron's surprise, Serenia's voice softened just slightly. "And when they do?" "I'll be here," he said simply. Her golden eyes lingered on him for a long moment before she looked away. "The council will want to speak with you tomorrow. Until then, rest." Aaron gave a small nod and left the chamber. But as he walked away, Serenia found herself watching him longer than she meant to, because deep down she knew his warning was not just a soldier's caution, it was a promise. The palace was quieter than usual that evening. Outside, the twin moons hung low over the horizon, casting a silver glow across Elindra's white towers. The scent of the night-blooming crystal flowers drifted through the air, carried by the cool breeze from the gardens. In the royal war chamber, Queen Serenia sat alone, studying the tactical reports spread out across her desk. She read of the skirmish at the outer moons, how the Chris had been driven back, how not a single Elindran life had been lost. The official report praised the combined effort of the fleet, but Serenia knew the truth. Without Captain Aaron Vance, they would have lost far more than a few trade stations. Her hover throne hummed softly as she leaned back, her golden eyes fixed on the ceiling. She had not expected him to succeed so quickly, and she certainly had not expected him to risk himself so openly for her people. Her mind drifted back to the moment he returned from the mission. His uniform had been scuffed, his gloves worn, and a faint bruise had marked the side of his face from a sudden impact during the fight. Yet he had not boasted or demanded credit. He had spoken only of what still needed to be done, as if victory was just another step in a long road. For a queen who had seen so many fight only for their own glory, that humility unsettled her. Next morning, Serenia entered the training courtyard where Aaron had been working with some of her guards. From her vantage point above, she watched him spar with 2 Elindran soldiers at once. His movements were precise, controlled, never wasteful, never showy. When one guard stumbled, Aaron caught him before he fell and reset the match without a word of judgment. Serenia realized something in that moment. His strength was not in how he fought, but in how he fought for others. Later that day, she summoned him to her private council room. The space was smaller than the main chamber, with tall windows that looked out onto the gardens. Sunlight poured across the polished marble floor, painting the air with a warm glow. Aaron entered, giving a short bow. "Your Majesty." "Captain Vance," she said, gesturing for him to stand near the table. "I have read the reports. You handled the situation at the outer moons well." His reply was calm. "It wasn't just me. The fleet worked together. Perhaps. But you were the one who refused to retreat. Aaron met her gaze. If we had, the Chris would have followed us right to your doorstep. A small silence fell. Serenia studied him for a moment, then said quietly, "Why do you do it? Why risk yourself for a people who are not your own?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked toward the window, watching the light shift over the gardens. "Because I've seen what happens when you stand by and do nothing. Good people pay the price. I can't live like that." There was no pride in his voice, only certainty. Serenia found herself lowering her guard, if only a little. That night, the capital held a quiet celebration for the returning soldiers. Lanterns floated above the main square, glowing like tiny moons against the deep blue sky. Citizens filled the streets, offering flowers and tokens of thanks. From her balcony, Serenia watched as Aaron moved through the crowd. He accepted their gratitude with a nod and a small smile, never letting the attention linger too long on himself. When a group of Alindran children ran up to him, he knelt so they could place a garland around his neck. Something in Serenia's chest tightened at the sight. For years, she had kept herself apart from such moments, believing that distance kept her strong. But seeing Aaron there, kneeling in the middle of the square, speaking to her people as if they were his own, made her wonder if perhaps she had mistaken distance for strength all along. 2 nights later, Serenia summoned him again. This time, the meeting was in the garden pavilion where the crystal flowers glowed faintly in the moonlight. The air was cool, and the gentle hum of her hover throne was the only sound for a long moment after he arrived. "I wanted to speak without the council present," she began. Aaron stood at ease, hands clasped loosely behind his back. "All right." Her gaze was steady. "I have judged you harshly since you arrived. I saw you as an outsider forced upon me by prophecy and politics. I did not want you here." He didn't flinch at her words. "And now?" She hesitated, the night air wrapping around them like a soft cloak. "Now, I am not certain. I still question the idea of binding my fate to another's. But I have seen you fight. I have seen you stand for my people without asking for anything in return. That is not something I can ignore." Aaron's voice was quiet but firm. "Your Majesty, I didn't come here to take your throne or your freedom. I came because the Chris are coming, and if they win here, they won't stop. This alliance, whatever form it takes, is the best chance either of our worlds has." Serenia looked at him for a long moment. Then, in a softer tone, she said, "Perhaps the prophecy did not mean a mate in the way our ancestors thought. Perhaps it meant someone who could stand beside me in more than just ceremony." A faint smile touched Aaron's lips. "I can stand beside you, Serenia, but only if you let me." The way he said her name, not as a title but as a person, sent a flicker of something unfamiliar through her. For years, she had carried the weight of her crown alone. Now, for the first time, she wondered what it might be like to share it. When Aaron left the pavilion that night, Serenia remained among the glowing flowers, deep in thought. The moonlight painted silver lines across the marble floor, and the soft wind carried the distant sound of music from the city. She still didn't know if she was ready to open the door that fate seemed to be pushing toward her. But she knew one thing. The human soldier had earned more than her curiosity now. He had earned her respect. And that, for Queen Serenia of Alindra, was the first step towards something she had never allowed herself to consider: trust. The sky above Alindra shifted from calm gold to a stormy red as the twin suns rose. Tower alarms echoed through the capital, and the palace comm towers lit with urgent signals. The Chris Dominion had returned, this time with a full fleet. In the war chamber, Queen Serenia's hover throne floated at the center of the strategy table. Around her, holographic displays showed the incoming enemy formations. The Criss ships moved like a swarm of black blades, cutting through the outer defenses with terrifying speed. Council members argued over possible responses, but Serenya's gaze was fixed on the advancing red markers. She knew this was the attack Aaron had warned them about. If they failed now, Elindra's heart would be exposed. The chamber doors swung open, and Aaron Vance strode in. He was already in combat armor, the silver plates fitted to move with him like a second skin. A pulse rifle rested across his back, and his expression was calm, but sharp. "They're not testing you anymore," he said, glancing at the display. "This is a direct strike. If they reach the palace, it's over." The council began talking, over each other, but Serenya raised her hand and the room fell silent. "We will not wait for them to breach our skies. We meet them head-on." Aaron's eyes narrowed slightly. "Then I'm taking the front line." "No," Serenya said. "We will take the front line." The council erupted in protest. "Your Majesty, you cannot place yourself in danger." "I will not hide in the throne room while my people fight and die," Serenya interrupted, her voice carrying an iron edge. "If I am queen only when it is safe, I am not worthy of the crown." Aaron's gaze locked on hers. He didn't smile, but there was a flicker of respect in his eyes. "Then we fight together." Preparations began immediately. The Elindran forces mobilized, starships lifting off from every dock, their sleek silver forms slicing through the sky. Ground troops assembled along the perimeter walls, setting up energy barriers and shield generators. In the palace hangar, Serenya's hover throne was refitted for battle. The royal engineers attached an array of energy cannons and shield projectors, transforming it from a seat of rule into a mobile command platform. Aaron stood nearby, checking his weapons. He glanced at the modifications and raised an eyebrow. "You're coming out there with me in that?" Serenya gave a faint smile. "Do not underestimate it, Captain. This chair has carried me through more than diplomatic halls." Aaron smirked lightly. "Good. Stay close to me out there." The battle began high in the atmosphere. From the bridge of their command craft, Serenya and Aaron watched the first wave of Criss fighters break through the upper clouds, their jagged, wings glinting black in the sunlight. Aaron gave quick orders to the pilots. "Keep formation tight. Don't let them split us up." The ships clashed in a storm of light and fire. Plasma bolts streaked through the air, shields shimmered under impact, and explosions flared like distant suns. In the midst of it, Aaron's voice cut through the comms. "Serenya, 3 fighters coming in from your left." "I see them," she replied, her fingers gliding over her control panel. The cannons on her hover throne lit up, sending precise bursts of energy into the enemy ships. 2 exploded instantly. The third spun out of control, vanishing into the clouds. Aaron's voice came back with a trace of satisfaction. "Not bad, Your Majesty." "Focus, Captain," she replied, though a small spark of pride warmed her tone. As the aerial battle raged, a larger threat emerged. A massive Criss warship descending toward the capital. Its hull was layered with jagged armor, and its underbelly glowed with the red heat of its main cannon. Aaron's jaw tightened. "That thing gets in range, and it'll take out half the city in one shot." Serenya studied the tactical feed. "We can't match its firepower head-on. We have to cripple it from inside." He turned to her. "You mean board it?" "Yes," she said simply. Aaron nodded. "Then we'll need a distraction." Minutes later, under the cover of a coordinated strike from the Elindran fleet, Aaron's small assault craft raced toward the Criss warship. Serenya's hover throne was secured inside, her eyes locked on the looming target ahead. The ship's docking bay burst open in a rain of sparks as Aaron's team forced entry. Criss soldiers swarmed to meet them, tall, insect-like warriors with hard chitin armor and bladed arms. The Elindran guards fought fiercely, covering Aaron and Serenya as they pushed deeper into the ship. Serenya's cannons whirred and fired in rapid bursts, cutting down enemies that tried to flank them. Aaron stayed close, his rifle picking off. Targets with lethal precision. At one point, a Chris warrior lunged toward Serenya's flank. Aaron was there in a heartbeat, blocking the blow and driving the attacker back. She glanced at him briefly. "You said to stay close," he reminded her. They reached the warship's central power core, a massive sphere of pulsing red energy. The room shook with the hum of its output. Aaron pulled a charge pack from his belt. "Once this blows, the ship's dead in the water." Serenya activated her throne's shield projectors, covering him as Chris reinforcements poured into the chamber. The two fought side by side, her precision fire guiding his movements, his presence shielding her from every strike. Finally, the charge detonated in a burst of white light. The power core collapsed in on itself, and alarms blared throughout. "The ship! Time to go!" Aaron shouted. They raced back to the docking bay, the corridors trembling as the warship began to fail. Their craft launched just as the massive vessel erupted in a silent explosion, scattering shards of black metal into the upper atmosphere. When they returned to the capital, the city was still standing. The skies were clear again, the last of the Chris ships retreating into the void. Citizens filled the streets, cheering as the fleet landed. In the hangar, Aaron stepped off the craft, his armor scorched but his eyes bright. Serenya followed, her hover throne slowing to a gentle stop beside him. Before the gathered soldiers, she spoke loudly and clearly. "Today, Elindra stands because we fought as one, because courage met courage, and no line between worlds could divide it." She turned her gaze to Aaron. "And because one soldier refused to let fear decide our fate." The soldiers cheered, but Aaron only gave her a small nod. They both knew the Chris would return, but now they also knew they could face them together. The morning after the great battle, the city of Elindra felt different. The air was fresher, the streets were filled with light chatter instead of fear, and the scent of blooming flowers drifted through every corner. The war had not vanished, the high threat of the Chris still lingered, but for now the capital was safe. In the throne hall, Queen Serenya sat quietly in her hover throne. The golden morning light streamed through the tall windows, catching the silver trim of her gown. Around her, the High Council gathered in their usual circle. This time, however, the atmosphere was less tense. There was an unspoken agreement in the air. Everyone knew who had made the victory possible. Captain Aaron Vance stood at the center of the chamber, his armor polished but still bearing faint scorch marks from the battle. He looked calm, but his posture was alert, as if ready for anything. Serenya's voice carried through the hall. "The Chris Dominion came to our gates and left in defeat. That was not by chance. It was by the will and courage of Elindra's defenders, and by the aid of one from beyond our stars." She turned her gaze fully on Aaron. "Captain Vance, you came to us as a stranger. You stood before me and spoke plainly, without flattery or fear. You warned us of what was coming, and when the danger arrived, you stood in its path." Aaron met her eyes, his tone steady. "I only did what had to be done, Your Majesty." Her lips curved slightly. "And yet, it is rare for one to do what must be done without asking for something in return." The council members glanced at one another, sensing that something important was coming. Serenya continued, her voice softening slightly. "When you first arrived, I did not believe you could be what the prophecy spoke of. I thought you were here out of obligation, perhaps even ambition. But in the time since, I have seen the truth. You did not come for a throne or for glory. You came because you could not stand aside while danger threatened lives." She paused, letting her words settle over the hall. "For that, you have earned more than my gratitude. You have earned my trust." The last word carried weight. For Serenya, trust was not given easily. The murmurs among the council proved they understood its meaning. Aaron inclined his head. Then I'll do everything I can to keep it. Later that day, Serenia requested Aaron join her in the palace gardens. The air was calm, filled with the sound of soft fountains and the glow of crystal flowers in full bloom. A gentle breeze lifted the queen's hair, catching the faint golden strands in the sunlight. "This place," she said quietly, "was built for peace. My ancestors planted every tree and flower to remind our people that beauty can survive, even after war. I used to believe that to protect it, I had to remain apart from everyone. That if I let someone close, I would lose my strength." Aaron listened, his expression thoughtful. "But you have shown me something else," she continued. "That strength can be shared, that it can grow when it stands beside another's." She looked at him, her eyes calm but certain. "Elindra needs allies, Aaron, and I will accept you as mine." His brow lifted slightly. "As your soldier?" Her lips curved into a faint smile. "As my partner, in rule, in defense, and perhaps in life, if you are willing." For a moment, Aaron was silent, taking in her words. Then he gave a small, certain nod. "I'm willing." The official ceremony took place the next day. The throne hall was filled with nobles, soldiers, and citizens from every province of Elindra. The banners of the kingdom hung high, and the flag of Earth stood beside them for the first time. Serenia sat on her hover throne at the head of the chamber, dressed in ceremonial white trimmed with gold. Aaron stood beside her, wearing a formal uniform bearing both the crest of Earth and the emblem of Elindra. The High Chancellor stepped forward, his voice carrying over the crowd. "By the decree of Queen Serenia of Elindra, and with the consent of the High Council, the alliance between Elindra and Earth is hereby sealed, not merely in word, but in unity of leadership. From this day forward, Captain Aaron Vance will serve as co-protector of Elindra, with full rights to stand beside the Queen in defense of her people." The hall erupted in applause, the sound echoing through the tall arches. Serenia turned slightly toward Aaron, and for the briefest moment, the corners of her lips lifted, not the polite smile of a monarch, but something warmer. That evening, when the celebrations had quieted, Serenia and Aaron stood on the palace balcony, looking out over the city. The twin moons rose high, casting soft silver light across the rooftops. "They'll come again?" Aaron said quietly, meaning the Chris. "Yes," Serenia replied, "but when they do, they will find us ready, and they will find us standing, together." Aaron glanced at her, then out at the horizon. "Standing together sounds like something we can do." For a long moment they simply stood in silence, the cool night air wrapping around them. In the distance, the city lights shimmered like a field of stars, and the faint hum of the hover throne blended with the gentle wind. Serenia knew the future would not be easy. War might return, challenges would come, and the path of ruling two worlds together would be filled with trials. But for the first time, she did not feel she was walking it alone, and deep in her heart, she knew this alliance was not just born of prophecy, it was born of choice, hers and his.